everyone! Welcome back to— oh my god, Jesus Christ, where did you all come from? Hello? Hi everyone, I'm Dop, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 4 of my Session Storytime series. I'm sure some of you are waiting on another incorrect quote video, which I will be dropping in another 2 weeks, but for this bi-weekly video, I'm gonna make you all sit through more of my rambling about my silly little campaigns, so let's get right into it! Where we left off last time, our party had just summoned 2 goddesses, Timi, one of the twins of chaos, and Kiba, the goddess of law, order, and vengeance. Obviously, Timi was not intentional, thank you Sylvaeus, but summoning Kiba was our feeble attempt at quelling the carnage that the chaos goddess had been causing. Now, with Kiba awoken, we obviously did the only thing that we, as puny little mortals, knew how to do, which was grovel. Profusely, of course, and much to our surprise, she agreed to lend us her aid and gave to us the Cross of Kiba, which would transform itself into any item that the holder most needed at the time. Now, this is where Syl and I decided to split up. Okay, I know what some of you are thinking. Splitting up the party? When you're going to go fight a god? Are you stupid? Is this the best idea you could come up with by rubbing your 2 little brain cells together? The answer is yes. Yes, this is the best idea I could come up with. You see, there were 2 things that needed to happen very soon, and there were 2 of us. Or, well, 3, but nobody really trusted Charles to get shit done on his own. But anyways, long story short, we decided we were both capable enough individuals to do what needed to get done, and we split. Now, we're gonna follow Sylvaeus first here, since he decided to follow more of the, main quest line, so to speak. Which he should, because he summoned the Chaos God, Sylvaeus! Anyways, I went off to see what could be done about King Norville, and Sylvaeus set off with Merlin to go undo his entire bouquet of oopsie-daisies at the Church of Chaos. Now, to say this thing was a church was... well, it was the overstatement of the century. What it really was, as Sylvaeus discovered, was a bunch of Chaos fanboys in robes hiding on the 2nd floor of some decrepit building, or at least that's what they used to be, before Timi got to them. When Sylvaeus and Merlin arrived at the scene, it was, well, chaos, as per usual for this goddess. Having deemed the concept of a cult to be too organized and orderly for her liking, she unleashed her wrath upon them, mutating them beyond recognition and straight up killing some of them if she so pleased. This was disturbing, to say the least, but Sylvaeus, being the sweetheart he is, decided to plead with Timi instead of attempt to wipe her out. He begged her to let these people in this town go, to leave everyone alone and instead direct all of her chaos to him, offering up his own body as a vessel to her will. Now, this concept of a vessel sure was tempting, but Timi didn't want him. In a whirlwind of lightning and laughter, she all but vanished, cackle echoing throughout the building as she disappeared. She was gone, or so we thought, until a startlingly vibrant, glowing green eye peeled itself open on Merlin's forehead. Within mere moments, Merlin had gone from powerful friend to fearsome foe, but I'd say we were all collectively pretty lucky, considering that with all the strange things we had seen this old wizard do, all Timi chose to do with whatever powers he had was... throw Sylvaeus out the window! As he plummeted, the goddess puppeted her new vessel to peer out the now broken window and laugh as he fell, before she suddenly disappeared once more, vessel and all. Thankfully, Sylvaeus was relatively unmaimed, having only fallen from the 2nd story and landed in the bushes, which both scratched him with their branches, but also broke his fall to some extent. However, the broken glass had embedded itself in his skin, and he was honestly just not feeling too great right now. Cut, bruised, and scraped, he was just really not having a good time right now at all. That is, until he was pulled to his feet by none other than... Backgammon Guy! Yeah, don't really remember him because we didn't either. He was apparently one of the guys at the bottomless cauldron when we first walked in, playing backgammon in the corner quietly. We hadn't really noticed him, but he'd sure noticed us and decided to extend an act of kindness to Sylvaeus in these trying times by taking him back to the tavern and tending to his wounds. Now, feeling much better with his wounds bandaged and having taken a few minutes to just breathe, Sylvaeus set right back out to find Timi once more, determined that his bargain would work this time, and that he'd save Merlin from suffering the same fate that he offered himself up for. Now, of course, Syl had seen Timi disappear before he hit the ground, but also she was really kind of broadcasting her current location with that storm. Through the thick clouds that had once been an evenly distributed blanket of darkness across the sky, they now swirled ominously over the castle, thunder rumbling as lightning streaked down from the darkness. It was like a big neon sign that said, "I am evil and I am here," just plastered across the entire sky. So, obviously, he began to make his way there. Dodging monsters, lightning, and homicidal ants, he booked his fancy little ass right across town, ducking through alleys and side paths to get to the castle as fast as possible. This man took every shortcut available to him, including straight through the gladiator ring, past piles of creatures and demons stacked high around a bewildered, frightened Gorg, clutching his blood-stained teddy bear and calling out for his mummy. Aw, poor Gorg. Eventually, he found himself on the castle grounds, staring up at the raging tempest that loomed ominously in the sky. Now, where the hell was I in all of this? Okay, I swear I wasn't being utterly useless while Sylvaeus did all the work. I was just, on a bit of a side quest. You see, at this point, it sort of sunk in for me that people don't really, come back on this plane like they should. And having witnessed the death of someone who, for all I knew, was completely innocent and didn't deserve it, I was determined to change his fate. Did I know what I was doing? No! Did I know if I could pull this off? Absolutely not. Was I gonna try anyways? Yes! You see, I was by no means a ferryman, especially at this time, though that was what I was training for. I knew how it all worked out logically, I knew the techniques, I'd seen it been done many times at this point, but I'd never done it myself. But if I didn't at least try, who was going to? So, while Sylvaeus went to confront Timi and the cult, I headed straight to the castle with Charles. I didn't really know where to go to find King Norval originally, but Charles was kind enough to fill me in on some of the details of usual proceedings when it came to royal burials. Supposedly, his body would be found in the royal vault, where all the prior kings were buried underneath the castle. So, underneath the castle we went, but not without a fight. At a certain point, the waves of chaos began emitting directly from the castle itself. This likely started happening when Timi moved her base of operations there after throwing Sylvaeus out the window. And, oh boy, that was a son of a bitch to fight our way through. We encountered much the same troubles as Sylvaeus did running across town, though the closer we got, the more the waves affected us directly. And by directly, I mean on the way down the stairs into the catacombs, I nearly tripped and broke my entire face because I suddenly had human feet. Not human legs, human feet. 4 of them, flapping down the stairs. My clip-clop sound had turned into a flip-flop sound. It was wildly unpleasant. Now, despite my newly fleshy extremities, we did eventually make it down into the catacombs, and with the help of Charles, because common is not common where I am from, it is an old-ass language and it is very hard to read, we figured out which one of the individual sarcophagi contained the newly deceased king, and I got to work. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I really kinda rushed the ritual. I had to improvise. I didn't have, any of the usual stuff I do my rituals with. All I had was, well, my crystal skull. That's pretty much it. I didn't get to prep the body, or clean it, or do any of those things that I don't really know how to do in practice anyways. I just had to wing it, and so wing it I did. And he woke up. He woke up! Ah, he worked! Ah, I was so stoked! I'd never performed the ritual on anything bigger than a rabbit before, so I was absolutely out of my mind excited that it worked and that my childhood best friend could suck it because I got to perform a metamorphosis before he did, so get bent, buddy! Sorry. King Norval was actually really grateful despite being royally confused. Get it? Royally. Anyways. King Norval was pleased to be alive. I was pleased he was alive. Charles was there. But we had an unexpected visitor that was a little taken aback by what he'd just witnessed. Sir Frederick stood in the entryway, hand on the hilt of his sword, as if he was debating on whether to pull it on me or not. But when King Norval greeted him, it seemed that he'd decided that whatever happened, whatever I'd just done, it was worth it because he'd gotten his king back and his best friend. Of course, he did interrogate the fuck out of me for it, and I had to explain a couple things about my culture, to which I learned that what I did was called necromancy here, and that people would typically be sentenced to death for it. Wow, thanks guys. But in the end, he determined that I wasn't like other necromancers, and that I'd done a service to the kingdom in bringing their ruler back. So, with my life not at all in danger, and with me not being nervous about that at all, we headed back out of the vault to go find Sylvaeus, only to find him arriving just as we were on our way out. We quickly caught up with each other, letting him know what went down with King Norval and filling me in on the whole situation with Timi and Merlin. And with that, we resolved that the only thing left to do was take that fucking feline head on. Did I mention that this was a cat goddess? Yeah, this is a cat goddess, and she is appropriately asshole-ish. With the group sufficiently regrouped, we headed back towards the castle, ready to take on whatever she could throw at us. Or almost whatever she could throw at us. Another chaos wave shook the ground, and after a thorough check of the group, it looked like nothing had happened to us, thankfully. But then the music started. The ground below us rumbled again, though this time with the vibration of music coming from seemingly nowhere, and creatures crawling their way out of the dirt. Monsters that looked like people, but decaying and voracious, the like of which I'd seen earlier wreaking havoc throughout the town. Zombies, as I later learned. And in the midst of them, as they surfaced from the earth, a startlingly stylish flutter of a cape unveiled! Some guy! Charles later filled me in that this random guy was actually legendary musician Mickey J, who had been supposedly dead for a very long time, although he seemed quite lively to me in that moment. Lively enough to flash me a sharp-toothed smile, do a neat little spin, a fancy kick, some weird backwards walking sliding thing, and challenge us to a dance battle. Okay... He let us know that to make it fair for us, he'd allow a 2v1, so it came down to us to determine which of the group would be the dancers. Sylvaeus was quite confident in his dancing skills, having been a bit of a party animal in his life prior to his mysterious departure, so he was an obvious choice. But when it came down to Charles, Frederick, and I, well, Frederick was more accustomed to being a knight, and so he was out. And Charles actually probably could have done a great job, what with his being trained in all sorts of fancy noble dances and stuff. But I felt like I was somehow partially responsible for saving this town since Sylvaeus and I were already a bit of a package deal. So we braced ourselves, stepped forward, and he granted us the first move. We rolled. Sylvaeus? Nat 1! Me? Nat 20! Dear fucking God, this was the literal exact opposite of what any of us expected to happen. But whereas Sylvaeus was honking around like a fucking clown, somehow I managed to pull out all of my dancing knowledge from past festivals and celebrations I'd attended and busted a move. Now, Sylvaeus had done this fun little thing where he had performed an act so utterly goofy and strange that he'd drawn the attention of a god, which is why we were on our way to fight a chaos goddess in the first place. Now it was my turn. Absolutely lost in the groove, I didn't even notice that the darkness that shrouded the town was fading a bit, nor the quiet gasp of my non-dancing companions behind me, until the clouds fully parted enough for a beam of light to blast through, luminous and brilliant in its brightness, shining down on all of us and smiting Mickey J on the spot. Because apparently he was a vampire, and that's what happens to them in sunlight or something. I was later told that this might have been a sign of Lux himself, the sun deity, so... goats be groovin', hard enough to summon a god, apparently. With the man reduced to dust, the rest of the undead crumpled into mounds of bones and rotting flesh, and we were free to enter the castle, which we did quickly. Not wanting to alert Timi by just waltzing through the front door, Sir Frederick led us down through the catacombs underneath the castle grounds, turning down winding passages until it finally spat us out inside the throne room. However, it looked like us coming through a secret passage was all too predictable for the Chaos Goddess, as on King Norval's throne sat Merlin, third eye wide open, pupils narrowed into feline slits. We braced ourselves, all of us preparing our weapons, Sylvaeus and I readying our magic, Charles with his rapier and Sir Frederick with his sword. This was going to be a long and grueling battle. To take down a divine being was no small task, of course, let alone in the body of what very well may be a magic user with power beyond our comprehension and... Oh, we kind of just kicked the shit out of her. For reasons that I'm still not completely sure of, it was startlingly easy to defeat the goddess, and truthfully I started feeling really bad that we were wailing on a little old man the way we were. Maybe Merlin was fighting his own internal battle against the chaos deity, which both weakened her and himself, I don't know. Maybe she was just a really weak-ass deity. Who knows? Whatever the case, in very little time at all we had her pinned, and I had the cross of Kiba at the ready to banish her at any moment. But then, Sylvaeus asked to see the cross. Now, honestly, despite the dagger incident, I trust this man with my literal life, so of course I gave it to him, trusting as well that he knew what he was doing. And he did know what he was doing, but boy, I sure as hell did not. He approached the writhing vessel of Merlin, cross in hand, staring directly into that third eye that glared in both anger and fear. And he offered himself as a vessel. Again. Sylvaeus. Buddy pal. Oh my god. This was the first I was hearing of this plan, so Man, I don't even know how I was feeling at that time. I can look back at it and go, Sylvaeus, you goofy-ass man, but honestly, I'm not really sure what the repercussions of killing a god would have been at the time, so... maybe it was a good idea? Somewhat? Kind of? Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, being pinned and cornered and entirely out of any other options, of course Timi accepted the offer, because otherwise we were gonna, smite her with the cross or something somehow, and even gods fear death apparently. So, with the deal made, Merlin fucking exploded. When she left his body, it was just too much divine power for his frail little old man body, and he just fucking exploded into a puff of ash. His body just disintegrated on the spot. I couldn't even try to resurrect him, dude. He was just gone. So, obviously, we were all a little traumatized by that. But what was infinitely more traumatizing was the changes that were occurring to Sylvaeus. The echo of Timi's laugh still fading from the room, we all turned to see what had become of Timi's new vessel. Once silver hair, now jet black with only a streak of opalescence left. Emerald eyes, now a brilliant ocean blue with that sickly acid green protruding from his forehead. Tiny cat ears twitching atop his head. Mouth usually curved up into a sweet smile, now a sick grin lined with sharp, gnashing teeth as it split his face both horizontally and vertically. And then, it was all gone. Within nearly an instant, the Sylvaeus we knew and loved was back, save for the tiny little ears atop his head and one streak of jet black that remained as a reminder of the dark goddess that now inhabited his body. I was concerned. Charles was concerned. Sir Frederick was definitely concerned. But Sylvaeus only seemed thrilled that his plan had worked, the absolute mad lad. So, with the goddess more or less contained, Sir Frederick thanked us on behalf of the king, and we headed back to the tavern for the night for a well-deserved rest. And that's where we're gonna call it for this video. Woo! Honestly, the so-called boss fight itself was rather uneventful, but god, you guys, Sylvaeus, or honestly, just his player, always has a way of turning things from slightly wacky to entirely fucking bonkers. First the dagger, now becoming a vessel, and spoiler alert, there is a lot more goofy-ass shit to come from him. What a guy, honestly. Anyways, if you enjoyed this session storytime and want to see where it goes from here, like and subscribe or something like that, but most of all, comment if there's anything you particularly liked or would love to see. I read all of them, I love all of them, I hope you all know that I smile like a little idiot every single time. And before you all go, I just wanted to give a brief shout out to a new buddy of mine, VMR Arts. They are really, really cool and do really, really cool little animations, and they recently did a backstory dump of their D&D character that I am viciously in love with. She is a little satyr, and I would honestly die for her. Go check them out! Alright. Remember to take care of yourselves, everyone. Have a great day, and I can't wait to see you all. All fucking over 100 of you! next time.